look, the first issue is security. I mean, that's an issue not just for Israelis, it's also an issue for Palestinians. And both are living with the consequence of failure to effectively deal with this issue. Right? I'm not a pacifist. You rightly highlighted, I started my professional career in the military. Okay? And therefore, you know, I want to see effective action taken to counter extremism, terrorism, violence, and so on.
By Israel, by the international community, by everyone?
By everybody. I mean, the Palestinians in the first instance have responsibility to live up to their security responsibility. Israel has responsibility to protect its own people. And the international community has responsibility to help the two parties to this conflict to achieve their objectives in terms of security and stability and peace. So the interventions must be effective. And unfortunately, what I have witnessed for 5 years is that those who have, you know, violence as their instrument, they're succeeding. They're succeeding to defeat us, and we're in some sort of self-denial on this issue. For example, the blockade imposed on Gaza. The blockade is a blockade on the crossing points that come from Israel into Gaza. The people who use those crossing points are people who are engaged in legitimate business, who have been cleared by the Israeli security forces to be involved in that business, and that are in most instances in a mutually productive relationship with Israeli counterparts economically. That's been the relationship. Whether it's the businesses the businesses based in Gaza, whether it's migrant workers going into Israel to work, and so on. A very productive relationship, and also beyond the economic productivity of that relationship, a relationship of interaction between people. People know people as human beings on a daily basis. So the rhetoric doesn't have the same resonance or impact when you actually know somebody as a human being. And 100,000 people used to leave Gaza every day going into Israel to work. That was 100,000 people in Gaza who knew their Israeli neighbour as human beings, and then all the other interactions that took place. Now, since the blockade was imposed in the name of countering the security challenge, the security threat, the security realities of rockets being fired and attacks being conducted against Israel and the innocent civilian population there, what has happened? Well, all of that legitimate business has actually been cut off. Now, some would say, well, that's the price you have to pay for security. Well, then let's look at what has also gone on at the same time. In parallel, there is another access that has developed for Gaza, and it's the tunnel economy. So this is under the ground.
So it's not been stopped in any way?
Not at all. The tunnel economy has its tens of millions of dollars. So now we have a situation where the legitimate business collapses, the black market gets stronger, and this is why Tony Blair and others have said this blockade is hurting the good guys and helping the bad guys. That's what they mean.
You agree with? You were describing to me that cement is available for building through the black market, but not for you to create more schools to put in practice the policies that you want, because
Correct.
You wouldn't touch the black market supplies.
Correct. And parents are coming into my office because 40,000 kids are denied access to our schools because we don't have room to accommodate them. We have a two-shift system. That means that we have one group of students coming in the morning for 4 hours, a truncated education, and another group coming in the afternoon for 4 hours for another truncated education, because we don't have enough buildings to have a proper education time frame for all that needs to be accommodated. We have used shipping containers and all sorts of other makeshift arrangements to accommodate as many kids as possible over the last number of years when we have not been allowed to build schools. And yet there's cement in the local market. So what the parents, when we turn away their kids from the schools because we can't accommodate them, they come to me and they say, well, your fine principles of not using black market cement is going to cost our children their future. And, you know, this is, of course, the dilemma that they feel that we are we are not addressing effectively, which is to say, we'll use that cement and build the schools because it's a good cause. Of course, what is the correct thing to do is to say no just cause justifies an illegal action. And what I have to do is I have to do better to convince not just the government of Israel, but also the international community to work with us to find ways of getting the cement in legally that we need to build the schools that we need to build. And I'm pleased now that we have turned a corner on this issue.
Is it really?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
the Israeli intentions have been very bold in lifting.
Yeah. We have turned a corner in terms of the commitment, in terms of the realization that the blockade is counterproductive, and there's a lot of effort going on to try and translate that now, that new intention into a different reality on the ground. We still face, of course, many physical challenges, not least from the security side, to make that happen. But again, from my point of view, I'm saying time is not on our side. We just have to take the risks. Because, of course, there's a consequence of doing nothing, and that is that a generation is growing up without the benefit of the education that they need to have to equip them to cope with their current circumstances and to come out of that current circumstance with a mentality and value system which will contribute to a peaceful resolution of this country. We will be coming back to those people in years to come. Those kids today will be the adults of tomorrow, and they'll be like my generation in Ireland. They'll either sign up or they won't. And again, that's what we need to be looking forward to and taking today's opportunity and today's challenge as well.